you know, a different way than an attorney does. Most attorneys want a name that is like Xerox or Microsoft, something that doesn't relate to specifically what it is. It's not commonly known. I mean, if you can't look at it and say that's what it is.
Right.
It's obscure. From a marketing perspective, I'd say the other way around. Okay? Because if I don't know what it is,
then
you have a lot of money to put into branding and trying to make people understand what that product is just from the name. So it's this little game that you play to find something that has marketing relevance, but it also can be trademarked. So it's, you're trying to balance those things is difficult. So realize that the real value in a trademark, regardless of how you create it, is whether it's out in the marketplace. Do people recognize it? If they don't recognize it, it doesn't have any value yet. On the other hand, trademarks that have value, the very highest value of any trademark on the market right now, do you know what company has that?
Google.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right.
Thanks.
So they
Google's
surpassed
trademark.
Coca-Cola. And
Yep.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola isn't even in the top 10.
Huh.
really?
Yeah, they're not. Google is number one, and its trademark value is $44.3 billion. $billion is the value of that trademark.
Is that based on the whole
Trademark.
world or just
Well,
United
what they,
States? Or?
just the trademark, the entire world, recognition of that name.
Right.
Okay, but the value, there is a company that does valuations, and I've got a handout for you, and it's called Brand Finance. And they actually do valuations on trademarks at that kind of a level. What is the value of that? And it has to do with a percentage of the capitalization rate. And the capitalization rate in financial terms for a company has to do with how many shares are outstanding times the current market value of those shares. So if my stock is selling at $30 and I've got X number out there, then you just multiply those two as a capitalization rate. But then they take into consideration, okay, a percentage of that is the value of that trademark. So you can see that if you have a small company that's starting up, what do you think your trademark's valued at?
Zero.
Zero.
No one knows about it.
Right. And unless you have a product out there that's attached to it, it's worth zero. So we, a lot of times, will get inventors in here who think, oh, I've got this clever name and I want to trademark it and I want to sell this trademark. Well, it's really hard to tell them the truth, but we do, and that it isn't going to do you any good. Don't waste your money. You've got to build a product that trademark then relates to and people recognize it. Okay? The top 10 companies, Google's number one at $44.3 billion in value. Walmart is number two, Microsoft is number 2. Walmart is number 3. IBM is number 4. Vodafone is number 5.
Whoa.
Bank of America is number 6. 7 is GE. 8 is Apple. 9 is Wells Fargo. And number 10 is AT&T. And the difference between the values of those, AT&T is 28.9 billion value on their trademark. Google's the 44.3.
So of those, how do you figure what percentage are they using of the capitalization for
That
those?
I don't know. That's probably an internal thing that this company does. It's like there's some big companies that will value patents as well. But their formulary sometimes is proprietary, but they're well known in their industry for doing that, and they put those values on it. And
So the percentages can be totally different, could be 1% and 90% or something? Okay.
Yeah.
It's probably what it would take if you started with a new name and how much you'd have to spend
Well, it could be that, and you know, from my perspective, I'm thinking about it too. They're thinking about it in terms of capitalization rates, which is number of outstanding stocks versus what their current value is. A lot of companies, the volatility of that stock is all over the place. So you could value it at a percentage today that a week from now would be totally different. So they're probably also incorporating the volatility of that stock into that valuation. I mean, that would be my guess from a marketing perspective, if they're putting this out there and saying this is the value of this. And it's a pretty substantial portion, actually, of the company value itself, which can be pretty special. Okay. A trademark can be used on the name of a company, and it can be used for a name on a product. It can be used also for a slogan. And when I'm working with people, a lot of times I'll say, well, you know, the name of your company, maybe you don't want to trademark, or maybe it's not trademark. Maybe it's Jennifer Industries. Okay? Whether you trademark it or not, who cares? But your product might need a trademark. So what you call your company and what you call a product can be very different things. And think of it in this term. Apple is trademarked. The Apple iPad is a product, but iPad is also trademarked. So you can have multiple trademarks on different aspects of your company and product. But of course, the corporate name being trademarked Apple, or the business Apple itself.
And then the silhouette of the apple.
Yeah, and
Right.
and it's a silhouette of the apple. And most of these, when I say the word, you in your brain you have a picture of what that trademark looks like, don't you? And usually, from a marketing perspective, you want not only a visual trademark, but you want the name as well with it. So not just the Apple logo, but also the name Apple with it. But, you know, that is so well recognized that even if you didn't have the name with it, people aren't gonna copy it. I mean, it's just, it's Apple. Okay.
Pretty genius.
It really is, just incredible. So, trademarks, from a consumer's perspective, they really serve as a shortcut to your product. So if I'm thinking about it in terms of a consumer, then from a marketing perspective, I want that trademark to give them a visual picture of what this is. Obviously, Apple does not. And that's what I'm saying about trademarks that don't relate to the product are not as marketing friendly, so it takes a lot more in advertising dollars and promotion to get the same results from your trademark.
Well, you know what, part of the legend of that was that, you wanted the letter A, so you showed up early in the phone book. And then
Right, first.
Yeah, that's another way of
There's
doing
all
it
kinds
too.
of reasons to pick a day. Of course, now
Sure.
phone books don't really matter. But
Yeah.
Right.
Now, and I had a pharmaceutical product, and we called it Lovexa, Lovexa. And I have a story about that when I start going into, some of the things that have happened regarding trademarks that you may not be aware of or prepared for, but they just kind of present themselves as challenges. But trademarks are actually sold as part of your business. So if you are building a business and it ends up being worth X number of dollars, part of that is your trademark. So if you've built a good business, whether that's Rocky Mountain Spring Water or whatever your business is, your intellectual property in forms of patents or trademarks, that goes along with the company. So even though you may have it in your own name, you usually assign that to your corporate name. So it's in the property of your business that as it grows, you sell it all as a
I might also add, you see this in the search reports, like the assignment records of a well-known name can go on for pages because trademark, patent, copyright, it's all property. You know, it's like real estate, you know, it buys and sells, it gets assigned as collateral for debt. So a bank will have an assignment on a trademark for a while, and then it'll come back to the company because they use it as collateral for a loan. And they do this quite common.
So if they default, they get that trademark?
Yeah.
The bank,
They,
the bank can
they
sell
own
it.
it.
Oh.
In other words, you know, it's already in their name,
Mhm.
and so they don't assign it back till the loan's paid off.
Well, and there are also ways of licensing,
Mhm.
like your trademark. Like Coca-Cola would license it to somebody who's selling shirts at a ball game or something, or you know, for things like that, or trinkets or whatever. And then you pay a pretty huge licensing fee to be able to do that. And when it comes to sports teams, that's another one. Don't try going out and printing things with sports teams on it that you haven't got the
I know
license
they,
to do that. There's
The
a-
minimum license fee for like the Broncos emblem, if you're
Huge.
gonna do shirts and stuff, is $50,000 a year. That's the start. But of course, you know, that's so well known, people will buy that. But you know, it makes you have to think that I gotta, you know, get that, I gotta make that and then some.
Well, and you know, and I've dealt with inventors who, you know, have ideas for promotional products or advertising specialties, and their dream is, well, I'm gonna put, you know, the Broncos logos on here, and I'll put all the sports teams, the NFL, and it's wait a minute, let's do a reality check here, okay? Because that may not be marketable for what you have. If you're selling something for $2, you're gonna have to sell a heck of a lot of them to pay that licensing fee. Okay. Another famous trademark, and I think Conrad, you mentioned Coca-Cola. Okay.
What now?
Didn't you mention something about Coca-Cola? Thought it what might be one of the big ones.
Sure,
Well,
definitely.
Coca-Cola is a very I mean, it's a great trademark. Do you know that trademark sold 3 times? Yep.
You mean change ownership? kind of?
Yep, change the name and the formula were sold 3 times between 1887 and 1888.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I
And they
know
turned
I
around and got it
changed
back.
Once, but I didn't know I changed it.
Yeah, it's well known. And it actually, they came up with that from 2 ingredients, the cocoa leaf and the cola nut. Cocoa leaf is from South America, and the cola nut is from Africa.
And didn't it once have coconut?
You know, I think it did.
Did,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Yeah, and they had to change that, obviously. Okay. I don't think kids would be drinking it today if they, of course, I don't think kids should be drinking it today anyway, but that's my own.
Right, exactly.
Bunch of empty calories, okay. But, you know, I found that kind of interesting, and, why should a business register a trademark? Well, it's not enough to just have your your company registered, or your, domain name registered. And I can't tell you how many people think that if they go and register their business down with the Secretary of State, that therefore they're okay and nobody's gonna take that and I can defend that. Not true, okay? My daughter had a, very well-established fitness, business, this is years ago, and it was called Building Better Bodies. Then a gym came into town called Better Bodies. Technically, she could have stopped them from using that name on the company because she had it registered here in the state. And what happens in that case is that they have to change the name for this state if they wanted to use Better Bodies as a gym. And that happened years ago with a company that I worked for a short period of time called Service Supply. They were out of Indianapolis. They were the largest fastener actually, it's a distributor of fasteners in the world. And until Fastenal wiped them off the map. But they were out of Indianapolis, and their name was Service Supply. They never trademarked it. So there was another company here in Colorado by the name of Service Supply and a few other states. So they had to use the name Service Fastener instead of Service Supply because they did not have a registration on that. My own company, Innovative Consulting Group. There is another company in the country named Innovative Consulting Group. They do a different type of service. Unfortunately, they don't pay their bills. So guess what happens? I get tons of phone calls looking for the president of that company or somebody within that company, and it's hard for me to convince them that my company is not that company.
I've seen that.
Yeah, it's a real pain in the backside.
Did you trademark that?
No, no. And that's what I'm, as an example, I'm saying that's what happens when you think you register something
Then you think you're
and you
unique,
find out,
yeah, you're
no,
unique,
you're
right.
not protected.
Mhm.
Somebody else can do that too. Of course, I wouldn't have called my company Innovative Consulting Group if I was really going to be trademarking it, because it's probably not trademarkable anyway.
Right.
I would call it something else. So,
You have to, I forgot to mention, you have to be careful, don't pick a name that's already kind of a common use. Like if you come in and say, I want to trademark extreme something, it's like, there's already 1,000 registrations on it.
yeah, it's good to do a
So,
good search, and you can do it on your own.
A preliminary search online yourself, and then you just think of all the derivatives of the name and see how many registrations pending there are.
Yeah, and having a domain name also, if you take a domain name, let's say you went and you got Coca-Cola.com as a domain name. I'll tell you, you'd be getting a cease and desist letter probably.
Quickly.
You can't do that. On the other hand, if you get a domain name that matches your trademark name, that's good. Okay? And some people have used that as leverage where, how do I try to explain this? Even if you trademarked your name and you get your domain name as that, and you don't enforce the trademark, but it becomes common knowledge. Some people have used this as a marketing ploy. And I can't remember the name of the company that did this some time back. But they got the name trademark and they put the name.com and they got that registered. Well, what happens is that everybody identifies with that name. So when even if they use that name or violate it, the place they end up going to is his website. So it actually helped his business not to enforce his trademark because people were searching by that name and they'd always come to him. So it's just a different way of playing the marketing end with that, using it in that way.
On the internet especially now.
Right, in the internet, right. Because if they go in there and they're going to search on that term, they're going to go right to his site. It's going to come up first before anybody else that has infringed.
Great advertisement.
It was terrific. He said, okay, well, I don't enforce it. I do that. Just brings him more business. Okay? So, let's see, what else here? A trademark helps, you get recognized in the marketplace, or it increases your business reputation or visibility out there. And so you have certain rights attached to that trademark. And so getting it out there is really, really, helpful to you from a marketing perspective. And we kind of talked about locally versus nationally. Always go for a national registration. Because too many people, like I said, are under the mistaken impression that if I go down and register it downtown with the Secretary of State, I'm all set. No, you're not. Generic trademarks. If you Googled generic trademarks, you're going to find aspirin, bikini, brassiere, cola, crockpot, dry ice, escalator, granola, heroin, hula hoop, jungle gym, kiwi fruit, Pilates exercise system, trampoline, videotape, Webster's dictionary, yo-yo, and zipper. Each of these trademarks, TM registered trademarks, okay, were worth millions of dollars each. What happened? Poof, it belonged to somebody else because it became generic. So that's something that you want to be careful of, is that if you go out there and you let that happen, that's okay if you're doing it for marketing purposes, if you have a real reason for letting it go generic. Otherwise, you have to enforce it. You know, it's like a patent. It doesn't protect you, it gives you the right to go out there and stop somebody else from using it.
And that's why the branding statement is, something that thwarts that. If you leave the branding statement off, people can use that against you to say you're genericized. You're promoting the name by itself. Think back to junior high English. Remember what a noun and an adjective are? Noun is a person, place, or thing, and an adjective is a descriptor. So you must work always to keep your trademark an adjective. It has to describe a good or service showing it by an association. If the trademark becomes a noun, it's going to genericize. In other words, the trademark becomes the definition of the product and not an indication of the source or origin of the product.
These are all little things to know as you're naming things, and it has ties right in with your marketing, because trying to go back and rebrand is a challenge. If somebody says, I can't do that one, right? Most of us didn't know, and I didn't know either. Did you know the word entrepreneur is trademarked?
Whoa.
You cannot use the word entrepreneur in the name of your company without violating that trademark. And believe me, the person that owns that trademark viciously enforces it. So if you used it as part of something, you will get a cease and desist, if I can say it correctly, letter from them saying, can't use it. Okay. We had an inventor in here, this was quite a few years ago now, but he was pretty excited. He created a product, and we all really liked it. I mean, it was just, do you ride bicycles? You know how the chain breaks every once in a while? Have you ever had a chain break? You're lucky, okay? If you're out on a trail and you're away from, anywhere where you can walk that bike, and that chain breaks, you've got a problem. I mean, it's tough to get those things fixed when you're out on a trail ride. Well, what this inventor had created was a link, small little thing. You can just carry it in your pocket or a backpack or the pack on the back of your bike, and it would automatically fix that chain by just connecting it. You have a question, Conrad?
It's not a question, but normally I wouldn't really get chain breaks because my bike gets stolen way too often.
Oh no!
Normally my bikes would only last half a year.
Whoa.
Well, I had a daughter about your age, and she kept losing bikes, but it was because she'd leave them out in front of the house, coming to the bathroom. And where we lived at that time, disappeared bike. So, it's about taking responsibility and protecting your bike.
Right.
Because I wouldn't be very happy if I lost mine. Yeah, we lost a unicycle like that too once, because she left
Now,
it
who would
outside.
steal a unicycle?
I know, isn't that crazy? And they're not cheap either. Both my girls rode unicycles.
It might then be sold on eBay or wherever,
Yeah, like-
just to make money.
Hmm?
Normally eBay.
Yeah.
Normally
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, anyway, go back to the little bike chain fixer gadget. I can't remember what he called it, but he had called it a particular name and put TM on it, and had I don't know how many manufactured. I mean, a lot of them manufactured in China, because it was a small item, injection molded. Did the injection mold, had them manufactured in China, had them all shipped here, started selling them. and he got a cease and desist letter because he didn't register the trademark, and it couldn't be registered. Somebody was already using that trademark. So guess what? He had a garage full of product that they insisted he had to get destroyed, all the product, and reorder.
Was
And-
it molded on the product?
Yep, it was molded right on the
product.
Oh,
So if you're not thinking about your intellectual property and with your marketing and the timing of all of this stuff, it can cost you big time. Okay. Now, if he had been here earlier, you know, somebody here would have said, hey, don't do that until you know, legally file. But he thought he was safe just by putting TM on it, common law trademark. Well, that cost him big time. And I don't know if he even ever really got the product manufactured again. It may have killed it. But it's sad because it was a very good product.
Yeah.
But that's an example that will stick in my mind forever regarding trademarks. Okay. Plant Perfect is a company that I am an investor and co-owner in. And we've never applied for a trademark because we call it Plant Perfect LLC is the company name. Okay. But we've used it kind of generically, and we put TM on it, but we haven't actually filed it. But we did file for trademark on our slogan, and that's what was passed around here. We got the trademark on the slogan because it's a self-watering pot that can be used indoors or outdoors. And self-watering pots are big in the gardening industry, and we wanted a slogan that, you know, really fit the product. And so we filed for the slogan, but we have the domain name and everything under plantperfect.com, and, you know, the company's registered, so we aren't that concerned about registration on that at this point. Maybe someday we will. Okay. The other example I wanted to give you was a pharmaceutical product that I was a partner with 2 other people, and we were all co-inventors of the product. One was a compounding pharmacist, one was a woman that I know that helped with, you know, the formulation and testing it out too, and then myself. And it was a pharmaceutical product, and we had 150 doctors in the Rocky Mountain region, several states here, who were prescribing the product. And we had done all the branding on it. We filed for the trademark, and it was called Lovexa. And Lovexa we thought was a great name for the product. And unfortunately, believe it or not, after the trademark issued, it had already been out for public scrutiny, the whole thing. I don't know the period of time, I don't know, it was 60 days, 90 days for dispute, you know, they could dispute it. We thought we were in the clear. A few weeks later, after the deadline, we get a notice from the USPTO. Your trademark has been disputed by a French pharmaceutical company who has called their product something that was far removed from it, in our opinion. And the product was still in development, and they hadn't even had it on the market, but they had filed for their trademark. So they disputed it. Well, our attorney was quite confident that we could win. And we really liked that name. It was so perfect for the product. And so we spent $20,000 because it was a large pharmaceutical company. They had in-house attorneys, and they wouldn't give up. So our patent attorney said, you know, you got 2 choices. You can change the name, or I'm estimating it's going to cost you $50,000 to continue to pursue, but we will win. At that point, we said $50,000 could go a long way in getting this product more out there in the marketplace than putting it in here. So we had to change all of our branding, change the website, everything, and rebrand. Luckily, because I had a marketing company, it saved us a lot of money to be able to do that. Okay, I just had my staff do a lot of it. But at the same time, that hurt. I mean, $20,000 between the 2 of us, or 3 of us, it was really, you know, a real hurt. So the importance of getting things trademarked and following through is really important. How old are you, Conrad?
9.
9? Okay. The youngest inventor I've ever worked with was 10 years old. And he lives here in Colorado. He's now a grown man, but he created a pooper scooper. And he trademarked that one called the Sassy Scoop. And it stood for scoop and sack it. Okay? He created an 5th grade invention class. And within 6 months of that being manufactured, he paid back the $60,000 second mortgage his parents put on his house to launch it.
Oh my God.
Well, didn't he, his parents quit their jobs and went to work for him, right?
Just about.
Yeah.
Yeah, they operated out of their house until just
So it was a
only
big
about 2 years
success.
ago, and have done very, very well with it. And it's been in PetSmarts all over the country and Ace Hardware stores.
What's the name of it?
It's called Sassy Scoop, S-A-S-I.
So what does it do?
It has his father was a plumber, and so he had all these things in the garage that you use in plumbing, PVC pipes and copper tubing. Well, the kid went out and he took a section of about 6-inch in diameter PVC pipe, and he put screws in the sides of it, and then he attached a copper tube to the top of it for a handle. And what he did is he took the grocery bags, the plastic grocery bags you get in the grocery store, hooked those to the back of it, so you can go around and pick up after the dog. And that was his prototype. And he did that for his science class. And before he got it to the little exhibit for the science class, he had to tell his teacher he couldn't show it because he was getting it patented. So the TV stations interviewed him and his teacher and everything else about his product, and it was refined by a local manufacturer, and it's been on the market for about, gosh, I'd say it's probably been on the market 17, 18 years now.
Does he have any competitors that do the same thing?
Well, a lot of people have tried copying it at this point. And as a matter of fact, the retailer that he had the product in,
Did they come in?
they copied it,
That's
went
smart.
offshore. Went offshore and had it manufactured, and
Sure.
that, I mean, when you have a product that is that popular and really does well, eventually somebody's going to copy you. Okay. He was manufacturing in the States. Large manufacturers know that in anything, if you're really going volume, you manufacture offshore because it's cheaper. So as soon as they could legally do it, or even before they could legally do it, when the patent's about to run out, if you think about the fact that it costs $600,000 and up to fight an infringement suit, if you've got 2 years left on your patent, are you going to spend that kind of money? No. So unfortunately, they're selling them online at this point, and you can go to sasiscoop.com and you can purchase them, and they are fabulous. I mean, I've got one, I've been using it for about, 8 years now. My next door neighbor's been using the one that I gave him was a prototype, and it didn't break until 12 years after he'd had it. So, it's just a great product. But I thought since you were here, I'd tell you that little story. So even kids can come up with some pretty clever stuff. And when you think about it, companies like PetSmart and Petco, I was told when I went out to negotiate the contracts for companies, and I was in Petco's office, she said that they have 5 poop scoops submitted per month for them to look at.
Wow.
So, taking a product to market when you think you've got something really unique, boy, it better be unique and have a twist. And because a 10-year-old kid invented this one, that was the publicity that we leveraged and got that out there as quick as we did. So you want to get your product on the market as fast as you can, because you will have competition if it's really good. Any questions?
Well, I have been thinking about like this PVC go-kart.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Kind of a kit that you can put together?
yeah, a kit, and it's well, I've been thinking about it, and it's just, it's all,
Well, that's not,
it's cheap and
yeah,
easy to make.
The
So if you-
wheels are turning.
yeah.
That's
If you
right.
went out and bought a go-kart, you know, if you had to go buy one, what would it cost, do you think?
Like, $200.
About 200, really, that much? I haven't bought a go-kart in a long time.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I thought it would be more.
Yeah, I thought I saw
Really?
them at Costco or Sam's Club a few years back, and they were like $700 some dollars.
They had some really cool ones, I wanted to
Yeah.
buy one of
Wow.
those. Oh, yeah.
Well, if you could make something like that out of PVC pipes, or something that you could put together really quick and sell in a kit form, I mean, you've got a lot of margin there
That's
between
right. Right.
what you could do it for in a kit form and what's on the market now. And I'll
Plus
bet
anything
you'd have a
like-
lot of kids wanting one of those.
Sold.
Yeah.
So you keep thinking about that, start,
Because it's like PVC too, and you just put it together.
yeah.
Right. Oh, well, that brings up the next big question, liability lawyers, obviously this is.
Oh, yeah,
Liability.
liability on products, right?
So here's
Yes.
the question,
Huh?
do you dodge any liability by having a kit versus something that's actually manufactured?
I didn't hear you.
That would be a Roger Jackson or
Okay.
Roberto.
Okay.
Yeah, legal.
Yeah.
Legal
I-
question
I-
is,
But at the same
Last
time, I mean, if
Tuesday,
you're looking at something
I'm
like
trying to
that,
get
you're
them
looking at a
to
lot of
come in August.
volume.
We've had them before.
You're gonna put a lot of cautionary
Yeah.
statements on there. You definitely
There's all
have
kinds of
something because
insurance,
kids are
product
using it.
liability,
You're gonna wanna be consulting with an attorney in that
Yes.
process.
Yeah.
And we had a
Before I
class
go
on
pick somebody,
insurance
should
that you
Yes.
can
Yeah,
get, right?
yeah, I think you should
Mhm.
talk to a few people
Yes,
first.
so,
I
yeah.
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, because that's a big
Liability
big issue.
insurance,
Yes.
before
Three
you
different
let
entities,
anybody
you get a flavor.
other than your own son use that
Yeah.
product,
Yeah.
That'd be
you
fun
want
do
to
it
get
all.
some liability
Talk to you
insurance.
about
On the product.
So
Yeah,
if,
right.
even if you
But
build
I'm
one of
trying to
those
get him,
and one of your buddies comes over,
August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they don't ride it.
Yeah.
Absolutely not, okay? No test driving, okay? Until dad figures out how to, how to get it insured.
Insurance on
Right.
products, yeah,
Right.
right.
Mhm. But, and a lot of times when you meet with the product liability insurance companies, they will help you say, well, you know, let's change this, or, you know, you really ought to think about this, or put bumpers around it, or,
Improve the safety, yeah.
yeah, just about the
Or-
safety issue.
Or I'm thinking
Yeah.
of, you know, the Microsoft thing, you know, there's a seal on the box, you know, if you open this up, you're responsible for everything, and you absolve us of all responsibility when you
Mm.
break the seal.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. It's just like coat checks, you know, we're not responsible for lost coats.
Right, right.
Reality is they are. They took possession of it, it's in their hands. They have that liability, but they still put it on there.
It's, yeah, it's on your ticket. It,
Mhm.
favorite word's bailment. No bailment is created.
Yeah,
We're not in custody or liability for custody. But the reality is, if you can prove they were negligent, they're going to be
Mhm.
liable.
I had a valet take my car and go park it in the garage and hit a pole.
At least it wasn't his car, right?
Right,
It wasn't-
right, yeah.
True, true. So, you know, I think we've covered a lot on trademarks here and, you know, give you some food for thought and you don't wanna go manufacture a boatload of stuff and put the name on it until you're sure you've got that name.
I was reading an interesting deal a few months ago about a trademark junkyard.
What?
Well, you know, intellectual, it's property, right? So there can be these old trademarks.
Oh, yeah.
That were maybe popular in the 40s and 50s, and the brands just kind of disappeared. And sometimes people buy these and revive them and make money on refurbishing the property.
Maybe handouts too.
And it was just real interesting, you know, how
Huh.
all these creative things people can do. I think one of them was maybe burnish shave or something, but things like that were big at one time, and then
Mhm.
they just kind of faded in obscurity, and these things were worth millions and millions at one time, and now they're picking them up for the thousands. And if they can refurbish them, their value will come back.
Well, okay, people know the name. You know, it's already,
Yeah.
so you probably have to put something with it that is close to that name if you really wanna use it. But that might be a good one for, you know, if you're doing a kit for you know, a go-kart or something. I mean, look for, that's a great idea. Look for something that you could leverage and take ownership of.
Look at Indian motorcycles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, that was a name that had presence, left, and then came back, so, I mean, it's not unheard of. You know, it's not like they wear out, it's just a matter of how they're managed, really.
Well, I've also been thinking about like these little things that like last for a few months and then go away, and they're focused on kids. Like Beyblades, you were saying. They lasted about a year and then they went. They made a lot of money now.
Well, and there are a lot of things like that that you couldn't get patented,
Yeah, that's fine.
you know, and just put it out there. It's a bad item. If you can get it out there fast and people like it, hula hoop. I don't think hula hoop never had a patent on it.
And they also sold a lot. There was like, there was
Oh,
like,
no, I
there was,
haven't. It's
there was
only
like
trademark, only
there
marketing.
was
Oh, that's
thousands
yes.
of different combinations
Okay.
and types.
Oh,
you got
I need every single one.
Yeah.
I'll take
Yeah,
that.
Beanie Babies was another one. Look
that's
how,
a good
that
one.
went crazy. So, you know, if you can come up with something like that where kids have really, really like that, you know, don't worry about the patenting, just get the darn thing out there. 75% of products that are on the market are not, or more, actually, have no patents behind them. It's about marketing.
And only 1% of the patented products are on the market.
Right.
There's a lot of reasons for that, but.
And I have an inventor who's talking to me about this electric motor who runs without batteries. Then it runs by itself, and his next step is to put it on a go-kart. So he's trying to build a go-kart, so you might go in business with it. Right?
Then you just need brakes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Electric motor that runs without batteries. Yeah.
Yeah, my father was quite the inventor, and he created a mock-up of a mini motor that ran on magnets.
Right. Yes.
And he
right.
really struggled. He didn't get it completely finished, so we couldn't
right.
do anything with it. But it didn't generate enough power to be able to really move anything. Yet,
right.
you know.
Yeah.
But I think if he had gotten a patent on it, I think eventually it would have been worthwhile. He's
Apparently-
89 now.
Yeah.
So.
Apparently this guy modified one of those radio-controlled vehicle now with the remote, and he modified the motor. Now he runs without batteries, and they cannot. They go so fast. They had to chase it because it goes out of range.
Oh my!
Apparently, he has some successful thing.
There's a lot of things that are in process right now.
Right. So
Technology changes so rapidly. It's really fun. You know, it's exciting to see all this stuff happening, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, what time is it, Roger?
About 10 after 10.
Okay. Well, let's open it up, and you know, if you haven't grabbed anything, you want to grab something.